Hi friends, there seems to be a lot of scare regarding the novel coronavirus. Some may be hype, some may be true. I am repeatedly being asked by our pregnant patients about the virus and what to do to prevent infection. So here are 10 points you should know about this virus and how to protect yourself. Point number 1. What is coronavirus? Coronavirus are the family of viruses that cause illnesses ranging from the common cold, presenting as flu, to the more severe diseases such as Middle East Respiratory Syndrome and severe acute respiratory syndrome. The novel coronavirus is a new strain that has not been previously identified in humans. It is named as COVID-19 by WHO, and the virus is termed SARS-CoV-2. With COVID-19 spreading fast across the continents and WHO terming the disease a pandemic, the Indian government has also decided to virtually quarantine itself from the rest of the world. Point number 2. What are the various stages that this infection goes through? Stage 1. When most cases are imported from affected countries. Stage 2. Local transmission from positive cases. Stage 3. Disease spreads through the community, affecting large populations. And this is what the Indian government is trying to prevent. Stage 4. When it becomes an epidemic, like in China and Italy. India is currently in stage 2 of the outbreak. Point number 3. How does the virus spread? The virus is thought to spread mainly from person to person who are in close contact with one another, say within about 6 feet, which is why we say stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Secondly, through respiratory droplets produced when an infected person coughs or sneezes. These droplets can land on the mouth or noses of people who are nearby and possibly can be inhaled into the lungs. The current evidence suggests that novel coronavirus may remain viable for hours to days on surfaces made from a variety of materials. Thus, it is best to clean surfaces as often as possible and make sure you wash hands after touching public door handles, etc. Point number 4, the most relevant point which patients ask us all the time. What effect does the coronavirus have on pregnant women? Pregnant women do not appear to be more severely unwell if they develop coronavirus than the general population. As this is a new virus, how it may affect you is not very clear. It is expected that the large majority of pregnant women will experience only mild to moderate cold flu-like symptoms. If you are pregnant, you are more vulnerable to getting infections than a woman who is not pregnant. Thus, you need to be more careful to avoid getting infected. Point number 5. What effect will coronavirus have on your baby? Again, as this is a very new virus, we are just beginning to learn about it. However, there is no evidence to suggest an increased risk of miscarriage. There is also no evidence that the virus can pass to your developing baby while you are pregnant. Point number 6. What is the travel advice to pregnant women? Because despite everything, some pregnant women do wish to travel. Our advice is it's best to avoid all travel right now outside of the city. The next question then is point number 7. What about the antenatal checkups? So at Care IVF, we have requested all pregnant women not to come to the clinic for consults right now. We are postponing all consults by about 2 weeks. For those who need a checkup urgently and are not being allowed to come to the clinic, one of our senior team gynecologists will visit your home and perform the checkup. Point number 8. What happens then if you get into labor or you have an emergency? Obviously, if you get into labor or have some emergency like say bleeding, you should immediately attend the emergency department of the hospital where you are booked for delivery and inform our team as well so that we can take the necessary action. Point number 9, and most important, what preventive measures need to be taken as a pregnant woman to avoid getting the virus? Honestly, this does not apply to just pregnant women as well. This applies as a general measure to everyone also. The best way to prevent illness is to avoid being exposed to this virus. Unfortunately, there is currently no vaccine to prevent coronavirus spread. So, very important, A, wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, especially after you have been in a public area or after blowing your nose, coughing or sneezing. If soap and water are not readily available, use a hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. Cover all surfaces of your hands and rub them together until they feel dry. Avoid touching your eyes, nose and mouth with unwashed hands. For cleaning surfaces, you can also use properly diluted bleaching solutions. B, avoid close contact with people who are sick. So put distance between yourself and other people. Social distancing is what will ultimately help prevent this infection. Point number C, cover all your coughs and sneezes. Cover your mouth and nose with a tissue when you cough or sneeze or use the inside of your elbow. Throw all the used tissues in the trash. Immediately wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If soap and water are not readily available, clean your hands with a hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. Lastly, point number 10, wearing a face mask is not mandatory unless you're feeling unwell. And if you are feeling so, contact the clinic as well as your general physician so that we can direct you to the right places for testing. A lot of people have asked me about vitamin C. Vitamin C can increase your immunity but cannot directly prevent you from having the virus. And lastly, do not believe the rumors going around. If you have any doubts, speak to one of our team members and we will be happy to help you. I'm sure we will be able to get over this problem very soon as long as we are socially distancing ourselves and keeping to ourselves and not going out in public. Let's all heal together and well soon enough.
In any hospital, the capacity to treat patients is limited by how many beds they have. Think of this as the number of beds in your local hospital at any given time. A couple are already filled by patients receiving treatment for things like a car accident injury or a stroke. And this dot represents one person who's healthy and decides to go out like usual. They jump on the subway and head into the office where they catch COVID-19. But they don't feel sick right away and might not for several days. So later they go to a basketball game where they unknowingly infect 2 or 3 more people. Most of these people will have relatively mild cases, but one might be an elderly person with a severe case who will eventually have to go to the hospital. But these 3, who are all infected but don't feel sick, go out again, on the subway, into the office, and then out after work, infecting several more people, 20% of whom will need to go to the hospital. Over a short period of time, this process multiplies the number of people going to the hospital each day. Before long, the hospital is full and a crisis begins. People with severe cases of COVID-19 can't get treatment, and some who could be saved die. Plus, people with other issues can't get treatment either, and some of them die. This surge of severe cases causes avoidable deaths. That's what happened in South Korea, Iran, and Italy, all of which went from 100 to more than 5,000 cases in less than 2 weeks. A lot of people died because they couldn't get into the hospitals. This surge is made up of only severe cases, but it was generated by people who didn't feel sick, spreading the disease in public. Which means the people who can do the most to avoid these unnecessary deaths are these people. And that means all of us. To slow the virus down, you need to act as if you already have it. By avoiding public transportation, the office, crowded places, and even small social gatherings, you decrease your chances of both getting the disease and spreading it. This is called social distancing. If enough of us do it, the virus still spreads, but much slower. Over time, many people might still get infected, but fewer severe cases show up to the hospital each day, never overwhelming the system. This trend line gets flatter. These people can all get treatment, and fewer people die because of it. These are the two ways the COVID-19 pandemic can play out. But this one only happens if everyone does their part. And it's why experts and officials are urging people to flatten the curve by social distancing and staying home as much as possible. It may seem drastic, but it's worked before. In 1918, the cities of Philadelphia and St. Louis were both hit by a flu pandemic, but they responded in different ways. In Philadelphia, health officials allowed a huge parade to go ahead, while in St. Louis, officials prepared. They closed schools, theaters, and bars. Philadelphia's hospitals were overwhelmed, and many more died as a result. But St. Louis was able to avoid those excessive deaths. 100 years later, these are the two scenarios we face. A difference not in whether you get the coronavirus, but when you get it. That could mean the difference between life and death, maybe for someone you know. But we have to act now.